Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. We're talking about cowardice and dishonor. So, cowardice and dishonor. If somebody would accuse me of cowardice and dishonor, I would certainly do everything in my power to make sure that that argument has been dispelled, and certainly not, run away from the situation and block people on social media and stuff like that. Avoid a conversation. So that's actually what we're going to see today. Okay, so the story is that I've been accused of transphobia, right? Transphobia by this transgendered person, right? This transgendered person used to be a doctor, and don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy is, or the girl, or the person, they, them, z, zer, or whatever. I never really disrespected this person, personally, but I did critique their medical practice. Okay, so the problem is that you cannot care for patients adequately if you are a sick doctor, right? I think that argument is fair. I think that's a very fair argument. So this person here, trans their gender, after they retired, and now they're the opposite gender of what they were practicing under. So she, they, them. I never meant any kind of disrespect. Personally, I think it's very, very flamboyant and loud, obnoxious, but I never really disrespected them personally. But here we got the accusation of transphobia. So then Dr. Michelle Now sticks her nose in and says, about me, block him. I'll tell you the whole story sometimes, right? And we get some likes and love. You got a few likes and a few love. I just removed a little bit of information here, but the only thing that matters here is that this Dr. Michelle, she's talking trash about me on social media. The story, I like to know the story. So then I'm all like, well, I wonder what the story is. So then I'm all like, here is me, and I'm all like, hey, I've been trying to contact you, but I don't know your number. It's not like I call this person. This is my cousin, but I don't call this person. Why would I need to call them? Except that they're talking trash about me. And then, so what's going on? So then I Googled her name or whatever, and then I came up with this, and it says, so then I message her, and I'm all like, I've been trying to contact you, but I don't know your number. This isn't about the complaint. I think your culpability is quite evident. I'm just wondering what the story is. And then I sent a screenshot of this. What's your phone number? We're going to talk. And then she blocks me. She blocks me. So we're talking about cowardice and dishonor. And then I started asking a whole bunch of my friends and all this stuff. And then I said, well, what's the story? Huh? And basically, the story is that you don't mind your business and cause headaches because you think your opinion is more important than anyone else. Elsa's? Was he going to say Elsa's? You're as bad as a liberal. You're as bad a liberal? A liberal? Anyway, I don't really get that. So basically what you're saying is that from me talking about it is me being bad. So why would me talk me the complainant is not the person that does the crime, right? That's like saying, let's say for example somebody murders somebody, the prosecutor is the the SHI, and then the next letter after that would be T, disturber, right? The prosecutor is that guy. The prosecutor's the bad guy, not the killer. But this is exactly what's happening, is that Dr. Michel Dow's a killer, and I'm just talking about this terrible, terrible crime that's happening here, and I'm labeled as this kind of bad person. All right. So cowardice and dishonor. Here we're going to get into the points here. So dodging accountability instead of addressing the substance of your concern, particularly the use of abortifacients and ethical responsibilities of physicians, Dr. Dow deflects by framing your criticism as an attack. How is that even remotely possible? My criticism is not an attack. I'm not attacking her. The only thing I said was, her professional responsibility is, she failed in her professional obligation, right? That is not a personal attack. That is a professional. This is impersonal. It's only business, right? But then this kind of thing happens, and then it goes into the person. It was purely business, purely business, and then she brings it into the personal, right? You know what I mean? If you ever watched The Godfather, that's what I'm talking about. Of course, The Godfather Part 1, Godfather Part 2. It's strictly business, right? It's strictly business, but then it gets into the personal, right? This is a personal thing, but of course, I guess it's always a personal thing when this Dr. Michel Narida literally kills my child, right? It is personal, but it's still business here. But then she's talking trash on the social media about me, right? So my criticism is not an attack, right? This is a classic tactic to avoid answering for serious professional misconduct. I think we should put misconduct here. Oh, misconduct. Here you go. No, no, sorry about that. There you go. Mischaracterizing criticism as harassment. Um, your inquiry was grounded in facts and ethics. Her decision to call it a personal attack shows either inability or unwillingness to distinguish between principled critique and personal animosity. That's not maturity. That's cowardice. Cowardice. 100% cowardice. And I just want to point the fact out that our shared grandfather is a war hero, died in the war and all this stuff. Yeah, I know the whole thing about the war and all this stuff, but the whole point is that he was not a coward, right? So that's the whole point I'm trying to make there. But Dr. Michelle Lauscher certainly is displaying cowardice and dishonor here. Cowardice and dishonor. All right, so defensiveness over dialogue. You extended an opportunity for dialogue, asking to understand the story. Yeah, what's the story? You wanna tell some people the story? I want to know the story. What's the story? Her response is to block you. No response, silence. That shows isn't interested in transparency or accountability. Only self-protection. Weaponizing victimhood. When someone in a position of power claims to be a victim, to silence those raising legitimate concerns, um, when someone in a position of power claims to be the victim, to silence those raising legitimate concerns, they're abusing public sympathy to shield themselves from scrutiny. That's manipulation, not integrity. Yeah, and that's so true, right? So she's a position of power, claiming to be a victim, and trying to silence me that I have a legitimate concern. Right? This concern is certainly legitimate, right? And she's pretending to be the victim, but I am actually the victim. I am not just me, like so many other people. So many other people are victims. But the ultimate victim, of course, was my daughter's brother. Right? For example, my daughter's brother had to pay the ultimate price, and that's certainly not going to. Be me talking about that is not a personal attack. My critique of that. This is not me attacking her, right? So. Nonsense. Nonsense. Good, good. Uh, so calling out, but refusing to speak publicly, she makes comments behind your back, right? Like, I'll tell you the story sometime, but privately, she refuses to clarify or explain. If she truly believed in her position, she wouldn't run from the conversation. And just to make things clear, I never did actually anything to this person. Never. Like I never actually physically harmed this person, or the only thing was that I did was point out the fact of how she literally did something wrong, right? That's the only thing that I did. I never stole anything from her. I never physically harmed her. I remember the last time that I actually spoke to her, I spoke to her about another matter where she did something wrong to one of my children, where he was basically poisoned by one of her nonsense pseudo medical kind of treatments or whatever, but I never actually, I never stole anything from her. I never harmed her. I never kicked her. I never punched her. I never, said anything that wasn't true, and if it was not true, I mean, this is the point in time to say, listen, what you're saying is not true. The birth control pills do actually prevent ovulation 100% of the time, and they're 100% effective. But of course, there's no kind of discussion like that because that's not the case. The birth control pills does not actually prevent ovulation, and that's the whole issue here. And so that's what I'm saying is true. Right. So hiding behind social media walls, not only social media walls, but actually, I forget to say this, but I asked my grandfather, the grandfather that we share. I said, listen, can I get Dr. Michelle Money-Dow's phone number? I said, oh no, listen, unfortunately, I can't, I can't give that out. She told me a while ago that I'm not able to. He refused my request, so I requested a very, very polite request. I said, listen, there's an issue on social media there. I'd just like to talk to my own cousin, right? My own family member. And then he's like, well, and then I was like, no, 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 I insist. I have to talk to this, Dr. Michel Money down. And then he's like, no, 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 you're insisting it's not gonna win you over. And then he refusing twice. I'm like, well, and then I told him about this, and he didn't even respond. It's just silence, and then he congratulated me for my wife's birthday or something. So he just ignored this whole thing, right? That's what they do. They ignore this whole thing, but it doesn't make it go away. Hiding behind social media walls, and also like her own, her I don't know. What was this person so very very special that the laity, if you will, the normal people, she's a class above the others, right? We can't contact her, right? So it's easy to block, deflect, and posture when there's no face-to-face accountability. But blocking someone who's asking hard questions doesn't resolve the truth. It only confirms you're afraid of it. That's what maybe she's gonna have a I if she's afraid of the truth, right? She's gonna be afraid of what comes at the end, after her last breath, right? She's gonna be very very afraid. I'm not saying that's something that I wish. I certainly don't wish that for anybody. But I mean, if somebody that's deserving of that eternal damnation, right? And we're gonna make a whole video of that. But that there is, salvation and forgiveness and redemption for that sin. That's, why hide behind that? You're not going to be able to hide from the final judgment. Yeah, but she doesn't believe in the final judgment because she's a heliocentricist, an atheist, and an evolutionist, right? But she's gonna quickly see at the end of her last breath, oh my goodness, what did I actually do, killing all these people, that were human, right? As soon as you got the zygotic genome activation, that's life, and you're ending a human life. I mean, there's thou shalt not kill. It's so easy. Shifting the narrative. Number 7. Let's finish up. So instead of responding to concerns about the potential harm caused to real human lives, she turns the conversation into being about her feelings. That shows where her priorities lie, not in ethics, but in reputation management. All right, so there's no more reputation. There's once you get into proven cowardice and dishonor, right? This had been proven beyond any kind of doubt at all. That's your reputation. So she I don't understand why the bubble though. I mean, you're on coast to coast to coast on the national. CBC's the national. She's literally on the news, talking about how great her medical career. She's a champion for women's rights. When she does this, it's all a smokescreen. It's so just it's grotesque. This is a grotesque. There's nothing more obnoxious than this, right? And I'm trying to get away from this issue. I'm really really trying. I'm trying to get into this a doctorate in juridical sciences. I'm trying to get into that. I get 5 or 6 or 7 children I got to manage, right? And that are living. I had more children that I've fathered, but some were killed because of this nonsense here. And I'm trying to manage my grief, right? So I have legitimate grief. Just cowardice and dishonor, and it's causing a whole bunch of problems, right? It's causing a problem. So let me get this straight here. So my complaining is not the problem, right? What she did is the problem. So let's set that straight. Let's set the facts straight. My complaining is the problem. What kind of nonsense is that? What kind of foolish nonsense? I'm complaining. Yes, I'm complaining because there's something. I don't complain frivolously. I'm not a vexatious complainant. When I complain, there's a reason why I complain, and things. I'm used to things getting changed or things getting done when I'm complaining. But this one here, my videos are being suppressed on YouTube. There's nobody actually taking the time to, they can't. Or for some reason, there's a huge deception where they can't even accept the reality. That's how bad this situation is. It's incredible. This is the most incredible thing in the world. But it certainly is true. That's the thing. It's true, incredible, but true. Cowardice and dishonor. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're talking about cowardice and dishonor. See you next.